Hello everyone, it's Jennifer, and this is a secondary intro to this video. So I am going to take you inside the Musée Picasso, or the Picasso Museum, but the first time I went inside, I filmed the introduction ahead of time and I didn't realize just how huge it is inside. They've done this massive renovation and now the museum expands like 4 floors. So I didn't realize. So what I'm going to do is, instead of making one long, massive video and overwhelming all of us, I'm going to break this into 2 parts. So we're going to go in and take a look at the temporary exhibit Maya Ruiz-Picasso, La Fille de Pablo, which is Maya Ruiz-Picasso, Pablo's daughter. And this exhibit itself expands over 2 floors. The first floor is based around these 9 new masterpieces that have been added to this museum. So they were part of Maya's inheritance, and she donated them to the museum. And so on the occasion of this donation, they've curated these really beautiful rooms around these masterpieces to kind of show the inspirations for some of Pablo's work, some of his movements, some of the directions that he went in. And it's really very interesting. You can see a very clear dialogue between his influences and his work. So we're going to focus on that today, and then in the next video I'll take you to the second floor where we can see more of the relationship between Pablo and Maya, the influence that he had on her, that she had on his work, and their relationship together with things that they like to do together. And I'll also show you the other temporary exhibit that's on at the minute, which is Orlan, Les femmes qui pleurent sont en colère, or weeping women are angry. So right now, I'm going to take you inside to the first part of Maya Ruiz-Picasso, La Fille de Pablo. So come with me. The building you're looking at now dates back to 1656, when Pierre Aubert purchased a plot of land from some nuns and had a hôtel particulier, or a mansion, built. This building quickly became known as the Hôtel Salé, or the Salty Hotel, because Pierre was a rich tax collector who made his money from taxing salt. Hôtel Salé changed hands many times over the years, but was inaugurated in 1985 as the Musée Picasso, with decorative elements like chandeliers and benches, chairs, and tables designed by Diego Giacometti. The museum underwent a huge 5-year renovation and expansion in 2009. 2 new stories were added, the basement was excavated, and a new reception hall was created in the former stables. It remains the largest collection of Picasso's works in the world. Let's start with a glimpse into what Picasso was like as a child. This is a painting by Don José, Picasso's father, who was a drawing teacher who never found success as an artist himself. He was nicknamed El Palomero, the pigeon breeder, because he loved painting pigeons. When Picasso was just a few years old, his dad asked him to help him paint the pigeon's feet on one of his canvases. And he was so astonished by Picasso's talent that he hung up his brushes for good. He did, however, foster and encourage a love of painting in his son. This is a painting of Don José by Picasso. It's one of Picasso's first known paintings. He was 14 years old. Now let's jump ahead to the early 1900s, when Picasso first started collecting African and oceanic art. He became fascinated by these wood sculptures. Tikis, in particular, with their stocky legs, bent elbows, and arms close to the bodies, resonated with Picasso. In Polynesia, the head is the most sacred part of the body, and its size evokes the power of the god the tiki embodies. You can see their influence in Picasso's work. Now we get to the weird Picasso that we all know and love. In 1938, he began painting in a spider's web style, playing on the fears of claustrophobia and arachnophobia. You can feel the influence of the Spanish Civil War and the impending Second World War in these works. In 1939, Picasso began a series called Tête de Femme, or Women's Head. This is Emilie Marguerite Walser, Picasso's mother-in-law and Maya's grandmother. Quote, "In this painting, she appears as a warm and homely presence, The physical corporeality of this portrait makes it a singular work that's almost unique within his oeuvre. End quote. One of my favorite parts of this exhibit was seeing how Picasso reinterpreted some of the work of other favorite artists. Picasso spent a lot of time devoted to Edouard Manet's Le Déjeuner sur l'herbe, some of which you can see here. While Picasso was inspired by the tête de femme in his earlier years, in his final ones, he became enamored by the tête d'homme, man's head. These pieces were exhibited for the first time just weeks after Picasso's death in 1973. The public was bewildered. His art historian friend Douglas Cooper called them, quote, incoherent doodles done by a frenetic old man in the anteroom of death, end quote. Robert Hughes wrote in Time magazine, quote, these are, after all, the last Picassos. They are also the worst. One enters in homage and leaves in embarrassment, end quote. Yet soon the significance of this work was realized. Pierre Day, for one, said, quote, the brushstrokes are by turns extended, emphatic, sporadic, and ultimately possessed of a diabolical virtuosity behind their seemingly offhand, even sometimes clumsy execution, end quote. I'll leave you to consider where you fall in that debate, and see you in the next video for the second half of Maya Ruiz-Picasso, La Fille de Pablo, which will be at the Musée Picasso from now through December 31st, 2022.